Let this serve as a reminder to always honor your feelings. As source players, it can be the tendency to want to suppress your emotions or suppress your feelings. Why? Because we know that feeling a feeling is going to expend energy, synergy cell energy that is non-retrievable. Here's the thing with that. If you don't allow yourself to feel what you're feeling in the moment, in that time, and really try to identify what it is that you're experiencing emotion-wise, you could have the tendency to suppress it, to want to suppress it, especially if you have a lifelong tendency to do that. And the emotion will most likely come out in other ways. You may have outbursts like that, especially like if it's a energy of frustration or anger. It'll come out somewhere else. It'll manifest itself somewhere else. So you're going to lose the energy anyway. It's probably for the best that you give yourself permission to feel the feelings, and then you're just dealing with the hit to the synergy cell at the time, and not a long, possible drawn out progression of a drip of like hit over a period of time, like that you keep having your synergy cell hit because you're not dealing with your feelings. Okay. The other thing is that you may, while you're suppressing yourself, you may be trying to numb yourself from these feelings, and you may start partaking in things that numb you, like, watching too much mindless television, doom scrolling on social media, partaking in retail therapy, a little too much, whether you decide that you're gonna drink, or you're gonna do weed, or you're gonna do some kind of drug, or you're gonna have sex, because whatever, you find yourself going to that thing that you've used in the past to numb yourself. Maybe it's food, maybe it's sugar, these different things that source players, your vices, you go to because you're trying to numb, you're trying to suppress, you're trying to not feel. And I've been going through retail therapy. I've been in this cycle of retail therapy to try and make myself feel better about things and not deal with my actual root feelings of what I've been feeling. And the choices led to, an overall culmination of things and a change in my life. Now, the other thing is that I want to also address something. So recently, Frederick, which is Infinite Source Truth, he put out a video in his channel about dealing with shut eye. That's what he calls it, shut eye. And that's the center. It's in your center, and you're not getting a fully strong source self connection, okay? And how to deal with shut eye. And also his videos on, his and Ema's videos on boosting your source self connection, okay? Getting that really strong connection with your source self. And while I've been working on these techniques, or these whatever, just kind of like clearing some things out and allowing energies to move, the other day, I have the dog sitting business, and since November I have been at my brother's house less than I have been there. Like, I've been there less time than I have actually been there. And so 3 weeks in November, 3 weeks in December, 3 weeks in January, and the entire month of February, I was away from the house. So over the last 4 months, I've only been there a total of 3 weeks. Okay. So that really gave me time to be with myself, to really fully remember how much I appreciate my solitude and being a completely free, autonomous person, that I don't have to justify any of my choices, any of my life choices and my actions to anybody but myself. But also just having the solitude and the space to do and be whatever I want to be. And those times away gave me that freedom. So then when I would go back there, it was like a weight, and wasn't allowing myself to feel the feelings of frustration or whatever it was that I was feeling. So what I was doing was spending too much money. And I was spending money that should have been going into my pot, into my savings that I have for finding an apartment. You know, there was also some disappointment and some discouragement when I started to look for apartments, and, you know, allowing myself to believe the illusion as far as like the rent costs and things like that, and never gonna find something. So ultimately what did it do is that it slowed down my process of being able to get out of the house faster. Fast forward to this Wednesday. So now that I started doing some of Frederick's techniques and giving myself a better source self-connection, I was home, and in my frustration, my nephew had left for the day, thankfully, at that point, and I was finally in the house by myself, and I was like, I have to get out of here. And within hours, it manifested. It came into fruition in my life in the most perfectly designed way that the Matrix does things, as far as knowing me and knowing what would be that catalyst to get me to leave. And that's ultimately what happened. But this is not about that. It's not about that. It's about what's gonna be the result if you don't allow yourself to feel the feelings in the moment that you're feeling them. It is so much better to do it then, if you can identify it. So it's about getting good at identifying what you're feeling and being okay and giving yourself permission to feel those feelings if they're negative. Okay, it is what it is. Emotions are going to cost you energy. That's part of the game. It's built in. And we are beings that have this emotional system. It just is what it is. So it's pointless to beat yourself up. It's pointless to try and avoid it and circumvent it, because it's most likely going to come out and end up, you're going to be paying for it somewhere else. And you don't want to be getting into, you know, like in this case where I was spending too much money in order to make myself feel better, you know, and justifying, and also some deservedness, and also in some preparation of like, I don't know what my financial situation is going to be. I'm probably going to have to be working a lot, and a lot of my money's even going to rent because the rent is so exorbitantly high now. So like, let me kind of like gear up now and get a bunch of clothes and a bunch of shoes so that I know that like I'm good and I'm set for a while, and I don't have to worry about having to lay out money for clothes in the event that I can, you know what I'm saying? Like these different things. But taking it too far and being too liberal with my spending. And that's where I made my choices. I made my error in choices. You know, they were conscious choices. The whole thing was conscious, but I was still doing it. And it's important. It's important to be aware of why you're doing that. And it was to try and make myself feel better, you know, which was, you know, and it wasn't like I was depressed or anything. It's just it was this low level, low grade, kind of under the surface frustration, or, you know, not content, you know, discontent. And it's important to recognize that within yourself, because if you have to convince yourself that you're happy, you're not, you know. And ultimately, I was not happy in that household with a bunch of crazy lower frequency beings, insane people, who were allowing the home to fall into disrepair, because to me, it's an outer representation of them, if that makes sense. And also with the 3 days blackout coming, I didn't want to be living there. So I'm not living there anymore. And while maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, had I been in this situation, I know I would have been scared. I know 10 years ago, I would have been really scared because I was in this situation before, but this time around, I'm surprisingly calm. I'm not like, I'm not surprised, but I am kind of surprised at, like, why isn't more, I mean, don't get me wrong. We had an emotional blow up, my brother and I, a couple days ago, which led to all this. And then aside from yesterday, the actual sensation within my body, I don't even know what it was, but it was trapped feelings. I don't even think it was trapped feelings from the actual event that led to the changes. I think it was trapped feelings that I've been feeling for so long. And I also tapped into how homesick I have been for this city. Okay? Because I know this city like the back of my hand now. Better than any other place that I've lived in. Better than the place that I was born in. Well, aside from another spot where I lived, there are certain places that I know like the back of my hand, and they feel like home, you know? And this has been my stage for so long, and I realized how much I missed being here. How I feel more supported here now in this time. And you know, obviously there were changes that needed to happen within me, metamorphosis, and to stabilize my life better. And it was necessary for me to live where I was living and get things in order and to help fix my life. But yeah, I mean, like, another person would be scared out of their wits to be in the situation that I'm in. But luckily, choices I've made in the past that have kind of, you know, I've got things lined up now, so I know it's going to be okay. And I know that anything can happen, and I know that I am supported 1000%. I know that the Matrix has my back, and I know that I am a powerful Source player. And I know that this is going to work out. I am going to be just fine. And that's what you have to tell yourself. Because if you don't think that and you don't know that, then you're going to be in a place of fear if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're faced with the unknown. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much. Be well and have the best game you can. All right, bye.